Hello guys, this is UniversalGiant, and welcome back for more of Let's Play Pokémon SoulSilver. Last time we made our way through the Ilex Forest and picked ourselves up a Heracross! And off-screen, just to get him a couple of more levels so he's back up to just about everybody else, he's up to level 12 now, and a couple of guys got some level ups as well. Duster was prompted to learn Helping Hand when he hit level 16. It's an interesting move, but it only works for double battles, and there are so few in this game it's impractical. And I'd very much like to get HCB up to a certain level so he can learn his first fighting move and help us out in the next gym. But we've arrived at our next route, and this is going to take us straight up to Goldenrod City. But first we have a couple of trainer battles to get out of the way. I'll also like to take the time to explain at this point how I'm going to be handling the clock in this game if it hasn't been made 100% clear yet. If any of you watched Playing with Moe's playthrough, what he did is whenever he started up the game, he would make sure that the time he started the game time was the same game time he ended the last episode with. And that's what I'm going to try to be doing, so it looks like time is progressing the way it normally would. So it's quote-unquote real time. Now there are a couple of events in the game that only happen at certain times of the day or certain days of the week, and those are the only times when I'm going to be deviating from that plan a little bit. And this is one of those routes where I'm actually going to have to do it, because there's one trainer battle here that you can only access at night. But besides that, I'm going to try to stick to the same timeline, if you will. Sandshrew, have we seen one of you yet? I think we saw one in the Union Cave. It's actually a fairly nice ground type, physically. I don't know why it learns Poison Sting, but there you go, Poison Sting always poisons you when you're on camera. But that's how the time is going to work. I'm going to be changing, I'm not changing the days of the week per se, I'm trying to stick as close to the whatever day it is I'm recording. And Aerial Ace, flying type move, 60 power, will not miss no matter what. Let's see, I guess I'll get rid of Leer for this. Very nice move to have for coverage. But I'm trying to stick to the same calendar day, so I'm not going to change that up unless there's a certain day-specific event that I want to show off. And another Spearow. Haven't seen too many Spearows, have we? One of the biggest weaknesses to Heracross being a bug fighting type is that it's quad weak to flying moves. So, generally, you don't want to have that thing in against flying types, but it has a couple of other weaknesses. It's weak to Psychic, weak to fighting, all that good stuff. But generally, it's a very nice Pokemon to have. The only problem with it is it doesn't necessarily get a bug move until very, very late on. I actually forget if it can learn U-turn. I don't think it can. Oh, right, Totodile's poisoned. Let's heal that up real quick. I don't like walking around with that. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind having it on. It's just that I can't afford to lose that much health for the overworld. The daycare. Won't be too long before we run into that, and they're going to force us into it, but enough about that. Snubbull! Fairly rare normal type. Physically oriented. I don't think we can one-shot it. But Headbutt does occasionally flinch, and that is one reason why I also recommend having it. Now Charm, since it lowered our attack 2 stages and we are a physical attacker, that's going to really annoy me. And you've got yourself a Mareep too! Isn't it adorable? It's still adorable. Who did I teach? Does anybody have a ground move? I don't think anyone has a ground move. Let's give Lupus some love. Yeah, he gained a few levels as well. And that is why Dark Pulse is broken for this point in the game. It had to end this way because you are a weakling. And Mom's calling to tell us that she spent some of our money on an item. I usually skip the call, but that's an indication that if you go to the nearest Pokemart, there'll be... I'd like to call him a postman. I'm not really sure what to call him. But some dude will be there, and he'll have the item that Mom bought for you. And most of the time, those items will be fairly helpful, especially early on. I'm pretty sure it's scripted which ones you get first. And hey, a Bulbasaur, number 1 in the National Pokedex. Grass starter for the Kanto games. Not very often you see the starters in regular trainer battles, but they're around if you look for them. But like I was saying about the items that Mom occasionally sends you, most of the time they're really nice items. And I think the first few that she sends you are scripted, but after that, I'm pretty sure they're random. Some of the items are really, really nice, and I'm hoping I get a few of those just so I can show them off. But of course, it also has the added advantage of whenever you faint in battle, if you lose your entire active roster, you white out, you go to the nearest Pokemon... I think it's the nearest. Either the nearest or the last Pokemon Center you healed at. I'm not entirely sure how that works. Because I usually just reset if I ever lose in battle or something. I mean, not on-screen. It hasn't happened on-screen, but that's usually what I do. And there are a couple of new Pokemon we can find around here as well. Drowsy, Psychic type. And if you're having trouble with the next gym, I'd highly recommend picking one of these guys up. Now, one of the advantages to having a Dark type, especially at this point in the game, is that Psychic types don't affect Dark types. So if this Drowsy was able to get off a Confusion or something, I'd absorb the hit without taking any damage. And with that, Lupus also has a second immunity because of its ability. I don't know if I ever pointed that out. Its ability is Flash Fire, which absorbs Fire-type attacks, and in turn also powers up your own Fire-type attacks. So, Fire types and Psychic types will not be able to hit Lupus. Very nice to have. I forget what I was talking about when I went into that battle with the Drowsy. Whatever. You might want to pick one up if you're having trouble with the next gen. Mankey! Pretty frail fighting type from the first gen. I think it's pretty strong, but I never actually bothered to use one. Always kind of wanted to. Yeah, HCP is getting a lot of levels really quickly here. Diglett, fast ground type! No one has any idea what it looks like underneath the ground because its sprite always has its head popping out of the floor. Very weird Pokemon in that respect. And when it evolves, it also gets an interesting ability that doesn't allow you to escape, but I don't think we're going to have any trouble with that until fairly later. I don't know why I'm saying the word fairly before later whenever I say late. Like, fairly late on, fairly late, fairly... This is a video game, nothing's supposed to be fair. Yeah, you bet I'm a better student than you are. And that's exactly why I'm going to be exchanging phone numbers with you. Now, one of the biggest reasons you'd want to exchange phone numbers with these guys is that after a while, they'll start calling you for rematches, and some of them will even give you special rewards for beating them a second time, which is pretty nice. Lyra! That's your grandpa. You let your grandpa raise a Pokemon for you. Is this the daycare center? It certainly sounds like it. Of course I'm not as good as your grandpa. Don't take that out of context. Just because I'm her friend and I'm a boy... Am I supposed to have the hots for Lyra or something? Because I'm really not feeling anything. Now this is the daycare center. In the first generation games, the only advantage to keeping your Pokemon here was that every step you'd gain 1 experience point for whoever you had in the daycare. But in the second generation, it got a cute little addition. which allows you to keep 2 Pokemon in the daycare center at once. And with that, if they're in the proper egg group, they can eventually yield an egg, just like the Houndour egg and the Togepi egg that we hatched earlier. There are a lot of specifics that go into how you can breed these guys to give you the moveset you want, IV, statistics, abilities, what have you. I'm not going to go into it just because there's just so much here to do. But you can leave Pokemon here, and every step you take, they'll gain experience just by sitting there. Now, the only problem with doing that is if you aren't careful with what moves you have in what slots, when it levels up, it may learn other moves and erase the ones that you want it to know, so you have to be really mindful. Oh boy, glitching! And if the 2 Pokemon you leave here ever yield an egg, these guys will give you a call! So let's just get rid of the glitch, and before we head up, there's a policeman over here. He's not going to think we're suspicious until we come back here at nighttime. I wanted to read the sign. Why you gotta be standing right in front of the sign? Jerk. Psyduck. This is not a psychic type. This is a pure water type, as is its evolution. I don't know why people think that... I'm pretty sure this thing learns a couple of psychic moves on level up, which is why it's a little bit confusing. But it's just one of those Pokemon that I can't really explain why. It's just adorable. A lot of the Pokemon from the 1st and 2nd generations are just adorable. Now what does this... I want to read this sign, damn it! So many phone numbers and getting on this route. Route 34. And if we head over here, we can pick this up. TM63 Embargo. This isn't one that I like to use either. But what this does is it prevents the foe from using a held item. Another one of those situational things I'm not really a big fan of. There are 2 more Pokemon around here I'd like to show off. Now here's the first one, Abra. I used one of these in my Fire Red stream. Really difficult to catch one of these because on the first turn it'll always use Teleport to run away from battle. So unless you have a move that traps it in, you're best off just throwing a Pokeball at it on the first turn and seeing if you get lucky. Very powerful special attacker, but it's one of the most physically frail Pokemon in the game. So, I don't know, a tackle from most Pokemon could probably knock it out. And in the time I spent looking for this thing, Heracross gained 2 levels. Ditto! One of the most interesting Pokemon in the game because it will transform into whatever Pokemon is in front of it when it uses its first attack. Such as Smash Ball here. And when it transforms, I don't believe it gets its stats, but it gets all of the attacks that the Pokemon it transformed into has. So if you want to be really strategic, you can send out whatever Pokemon you want it to transform into just so you can take advantage of its moves. Now, Ditto got a really interesting ability in the 5th generation Dream World, I think it was, that allowed it to transform when it was sent in. So that gave the Ditto the upper hand, so you couldn't prepare for it to transform. And now that we've finally found a Ditto, it's time for us to check out Goldenrod City. But before we do that, I'm gonna go heal up, rest up, and come back out here at nighttime. And now that it's nighttime, we can finally go back to that police officer. And now he'll think we're a shady character, so he'll walk all the way across the screen to attack us. Very few battles like this are triggered depending on what time of day it is. But Policeman Keith has a Growlithe! Very interesting fire type I've always wanted to use. But the reason why they give you Ditto on this route, the same route that you'd find the daycare, is not a coincidence. Ditto, if you leave it to breed, can supposedly transform into any other Pokemon and thus can breed with anything as long as it has a gender. There are Pokemon that don't have genders and you cannot breed those Pokemon, especially the legendaries. That's the reason why most of them don't have genders. But as long as you have a Ditto in the daycare, it'll breed with just about anything. And that does it for this route. Also, you guys want to know why this seemed to go by a little bit faster than usual? I forgot to turn battle animations back on after I did my little grinding session off screen. But it's time to finally explore Goldenrod City. There's so much to do here, so much to talk about. I don't want to start with it now because it's enough to fill up an entire other video. That's right, we have to take into account type advantages, not just levels. Ah, the good old days when there were only 150 types of Pokemon. But in the 4th generation, there were up to 493. How about that? So, I think we've done enough interesting stuff today. Tomorrow, we'll head out and explore Goldenrod City, the largest city in Johto. This is UniversalGiant, and I'll see you guys next time.